solutions using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Hey, what's happening? It's the Wednesday edition of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. I'm David Coleman, Dynamic Dave, Dynamic DC, all of those names that y'all call me, and you probably call me some others as well, but that's okay. As long as I don't answer to them, I'm all right. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. on joynetradio.com. And don't forget to download the JoyNet Radio app. Go out to the JoyNet website, click on your prospective app, whether it's Android or Apple, and download that app. Okay, that way you can carry us everywhere you go, and you can Bluetooth it in your car. By now, everybody's got Bluetooth in their car, right? And if you're buying cars and they don't have Bluetooth, then maybe you need to get a new radio so you can hear Black Focus and JoyNet. And of course, if you miss any of the show, now you can go out and get the podcast. Just go out to any of your podcast platforms. Do black people listen to podcasts? I know some of us do. A lot of the sports people do. Black people that do sports. But do regular black folks listen to podcasts? I want y'all to prove me wrong, all right? Go out and check out the podcast on any of the platform, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. We're on about 8 different podcast platforms. So just Google Black Focus Radio. You'll be interesting. I'll tell you right now, and I'm not bragging because it was the show yesterday, but you'll be fascinated of what I talked about, what's going on in St. Louis and the KKK Act of 1871. And if you listened to the show yesterday, then in all likelihood, and then you jumped on sports social media today, in all likelihood, you saw what I was talking about. And I'll explain that to you a little later on. But I just thought I'd throw that out there for you. When I tell you that we're ahead of the curve on a lot of issues, particularly in this area, yesterday proved that. We'll talk about that today as well, okay? We got a lot of other stuff to talk about, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'll tell you what, we'll do Black Facts here in just a moment. Robert Webb is out there wandering in the wilderness, so if you see him, send him this way. We'll certainly give you an update on the election that took place yesterday. And does the local media cover the elections here? Do they cover any real news? I'm beginning to wonder. I'm beginning to wonder what's going on with the local news. Do we even have any? So here's a tease for the day. Many elected officials have lived off the taxpayers for years. I think I'll edit that right now because I don't like it. I told you I'm kind of anal like that. You know, if I see a mistake, I have to stop for a moment. Even though I have that Grammarly stuff, but still, it misses stuff. Okay, many elected officials have lived off the taxpayers for years. Since they are so keen on the idea of cutting entitlements, we hear that all the time, should their dependence on the dollars, should their dependence on your dollars be brought under scrutiny by you, the taxpayer? And also we'll talk about, what if I told you that the enemy whom you battle is within your midst? This should be pretty obvious to a particular section of the black population. Are they aware or they just don't care? I'm going to talk about that today as well, because there are a couple of stories that I've seen today, and a story that I read a little bit of yesterday should be disturbing to this particular segment of the black community. And at some point, they're going to need to stand up. So we'll talk about all of that here in just a moment. But before that, let's do Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
So, I have purposely been trying to avoid the Meghan Markle debacle, or whatever you call it, the royal kiss my butt. I don't know what's going on, but I really don't care. I really didn't care when she got married. I really don't care about the British monarchy. I am fascinated by the stupidity of Americans, particularly black Americans, who are fascinated about the British monarchy, when in fact, they are nothing more than a bunch of thieves. Yes, I said it. Just like America is a bunch of thieves. Okay? There are two peas in a pod, a rotten pod. Well, let's say there are two rotten peas in a rotten pod. I'm just being real with you. So I found it interesting, and over the weekend, some friends and I were joking about, the prince and the black woman, and, once you go black, you don't go back, all that stuff. And, they do say that's true. I don't know, because I'm still black, and I've been going black. But anyway, I'm sorry. So I found it interesting that I saw a couple of stories that black Britons don't teach black history in schools in Britain. I didn't know that, okay? But it's typical of the European society because they typically want to hide their truths about what they did to people, human beings. So now that this Meghan Markle thing has come out, so a lot of people didn't realize that she would never be accepted because, number one, she's been married, and number two, she's got black blood in her veins. She doesn't have the blue blood, the interbreeding that happened a lot during the early years of the European dynasties. But I also found it interesting because we know if we study history, if we understand history, it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that every continent was at one point inhabited by Africans. Not a hope, not a prayer, not a thought, but there is historical data to back up those facts. Don't get mad at me, because we like to talk about facts. So because this Meghan Markle thing has blown up and everybody is so enamored or fascinated or voyeuristic about it, I thought I'd try to help out some of you white folks who don't understand, and some of you black folks who don't understand the power of melanin. Okay? Now, this story says British academics angry at new GCSE course that says Africans arrived in Britain before the English. Boy, that's controversy. Africans arrived in Britain before the English. How could that be possible? Are you telling me that Sir Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table didn't exist? Are you telling me that Don Quixote and Excalibur didn't exist? Yeah, I'm telling you, all of that stuff is a myth. All of it is made up. Okay? So, here's the article. A new GCSE history course said to teach students that Africans arrived in Britain before the English has caused uproar among British academics. Well, you can't, and this is my editorial right here, this part right here. You can't be an academic if, in fact, you don't accept facts. Closing my editorial on that part. The module, which will be offered by the Oxford and Cambridge Examination Board from September, was created with academics from the Black and Asian Studies Association. It will cover new arrivals to the UK from the Romans up to modern-day migrants, such as those from Syria and Eastern Europe, and assesses the reasons for immigration, the experience of new entrants, and the impact on the indigenous population. The course is called Migration to Britain, C1000 to C2010. Its literature states, this course will enable students to learn how the movement of people, European, African, Asian, to and from these islands has shaped the story of the nation for thousands of years. The history of migration is the story of Britain. In 1984, Peter Fryer wrote, there were Africans in Britain before the English came. The dickens you say. Oh, that's my editorial. Open editorial. The dickens you say. Close editorial. I'm going to read again the date of that book, written by Peter Fryer in 1984. There were Africans in Britain before the English came. But V.S. Naipaul, the Booker and Nobel Prize winning novelist, told reporters on Sunday, once again, political correctness is distorting our history and the education of our children. Historian Sir Roy Strong, author of The Story of Britain, said, this stands history on its head, projecting back onto the past, something that isn't true. The only Africans who came here were a few with the Romans who came and then left. I find it disturbing that our children should be taught something that is clearly designed to feed into contemporary problems rather than tell our island's story properly. Woo, they're upset. A book on the course reading list, written by Marxist historian, is said to refer to a Roman legion of North Africans briefly stationed in Hadrian's Wall in the 3rd century before the arrival of Anglo-Saxons. But the newspaper states that while up to 500 Aurelian Moors, that's who those dark North Africans were, they were Moors. I'm sorry, open and close editorial. Named in honor of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, manned a fort near Carlisle. There is no evidence they settled there. Okay. Open editorial, just for a second. We know down through history, when people have had wars and occupied cities, that those people who were the conquerors often settled in those regions. I'm closing editorial. Okay. Professor Alan Smithers of Buckingham University, a specialist advisor to the Commons Education Committee, said this seems to be aimed more at indoctrination rather than education. No, I'm opening editorial. No, it's aimed more at education than indoctrination. Okay, I'm closing editorial again. It is dangerous because a cohesive society depends on an authentic shared view of history. However, Professor Mark Umrod of York University, one of the historians researching the new topic, told the newspaper it is an outstanding example of how long a view of history helps us to understand and find a place for ourselves in contemporary society. Our research project shows how, for example, in the late Middle Ages, no one was more than 10 miles from an immigrant. Mark Goddard, head of the history at OCR, said, "This is no political bias. The GCSE will present facts. It is not pushing any particular argument." So here's my point. If you go on my wall, the other day I posted a picture of some black Asians. Let me see if I quickly have time to scroll down and pull that up. They were black. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting here right now looking at a speech by Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. I did say Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. He's a white guy. By him being a rabbi, he's saying he's probably Jewish. In fact, there's no probably to it. He is. Here's what the subject of his speech was. Black people are the 12 tribes of Israel. Hello? You see, I remember talking to a rabbi in Nashville. In fact, we were on a panel together. And and I'm sorry I forgot his name, but he actually was a graduate of Little Rock Central. And we got into the conversation about the origin of man and where man came from and the 12 tribes of Israel and what the Bible says about those tribes and who those people were extrinsically and intrinsically. And you know what he said after we finished our conversation? He said, "We've known this for decades, but no one really wants to talk about it." But back to my picture, and I'm quickly scrolling because y'all know I post so much stuff, good stuff that is. But a picture of a family of Africans, okay, who had slanted eyes and were from Egypt. There's also a story on my wall from the National Geographic who revealed the true Adam and what he looked like. Guess what? Brown eyes, thick lips, brown skin, and just as they described in the Bible, hair like lamb's wool. We also know the Malians, Abu Bakari, he gave up his entire kingdom. If Abu Bakari lived today, he would today be the richest man in the world. He was the king of Mali. We know that Abu Bakari gave up his kingdom to sell the world. We also know that Africans were the first to sell the seas. We know that. History has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. So why am I saying this? Because see, what we've been taught, and of course, you know, I'm sitting here now looking at the African origin of civilization. I'm also looking at They Came Before Columbus, many books that I've told you to read. There is too much evidence out here for the British to pretend or to simply ignore the fact that they were not the first. So, here's the picture that I was talking about right here. I'm looking at a picture right now of an Asian black woman with her baby in her lap. And if you look at her eyes are slanted. If you look at her baby's eyes, his eyes are slanted. When they say Asiatic black man, these are the people that they're referring to. The San people, S-A-N, who have an Asian look about them and are older than any Asians on earth. They are the original inhabitants. In many Asiatic countries, they are known as negritos. So what I'm trying to educate you on this black fact, and it may anger many of you, you may even call me crazy, but I have facts. You have belief. There's a huge difference in the two. And that's our black fact for today.
Black Focus Radio. For more dynamic black facts, our culture, our history, our people. On JourneyRadio.com.
Them snooty ass British. If it wasn't for America, y'all be speaking Russian right now. Well, they would. It's amazing to me how ignorant some people are. Look, you came from us. You are our children. That's why you rebel. Them snooty ass British. Don't get mad at me. If it wasn't for America, y'all would still speaking Russian. I'm just saying. 855-525-5683. If you would like to sponsor Black Facts, call me up at 615-554-0568 or hit me up on blackfocusradio@gmail.com and I'll put together a nice package for you. All right. Let's welcome to the mic Robert Webb. Hey, Robert, how you doing?
What's happening, Doc?
How you doing?
I'm up in this piece, baby.
Yeah,
What's up in here?
That's good. You bring lunch?
Yeah, I did, but I got wet. Yeah, I don't think you don't want it soggy.
No, you must have been riding with the windows down.
I was, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's depressing. I was kind of hungry.
Yeah, because you worked out just now. All right then, brother.
Did you like that black
I
fact?
did like the black fact. Actually, I have to admit, I like that one. I mean, it's good for people to know. It explains a lot.
Oh, it explains an awful lot. It's just amazing how people are so afraid of truth. I mean, that's where racism really emanated from. Is that, see, when they went into Africa and realized they saw them pyramids and them big ass buildings, they lived for centuries thinking that they were the stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they said, well, let's go explore, and realize that you've already been explored. But anyway, so I hope y'all enjoyed that black fact. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, of course. There was an election yesterday.
It was.
And you all apparently didn't care.
Nobody turned out. Wasn't a strong turnout.
I think it was like 391 votes cast. Is that
I think
correct?
it was 693 votes.
693? Like I said, 693.
Yeah.
And nobody got like 50% of the vote.
Nobody got 50%. It was 290. I think Joyce got 295, and Brian got he was like 50-some votes shy. I think he got like 230 something. I think he got 235. Joe got 295, 294, something like that.
So that means that there's going to be a runoff, I believe. It's February the 11th.
Yeah.
And you all will get another opportunity to go out and vote.
Go ahead and cast your vote.
But y'all won't do that either, will you?
Yeah, they will.
Well, how many votes were cast? 693?
693 total, yeah.
Can we get 700? Can we get 700? I'm gonna develop some campaign stickers and say, Can we get 700? Not, notice I didn't say 700. I said 700.
700.
700.
700.
Okay? Can we get 700?
700.
Because I'm going to tell you, folks, I was piss poor.
That was not the best showing, Dave.
I mean, dude, what are y'all doing? Do y'all not care about your communities? Don't get mad when the police raid your communities, when your streets ain't clean, when your streets got potholes in them, when you got houses on your corner that look like Lebanon bombed out buildings. Don't get mad. And then when you go to West Little Rock and it's all clean and pristine and pretty, don't get upset. Don't say, see, this how they treat us.
You can't say that, Dave, because you had white folks who didn't vote either. It wasn't just black folks, dog.
Okay, just
So don't do that, man.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Look,
don't get on my
okay.
black folk.
Would you
With
just
white folks, get on white folk first. Then come back to black folks.
Trust me, they're coming. But don't get mad.
Okay, my bad, dog. My bad.
Because y'all ain't voting. I'm just saying. You know what I'm afraid of is that, this census that's going to be taking place. People don't know how important the census is for your communities. And if you're not voting, you're probably not going to take the census. And you know what that means? Is that money that they allocate to your communities will not get there. That means that if your community has grown and they need more representation on a state and federal level, you will not get that.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay? So y'all keep playing. Y'all keep pretending. Let's put it this way. Keep being a victim. Okay? Because I like a person who turns their pain into power. And it's time for the black community to begin to turn our pain into power. And one of those ways to do it is at the ballot box. Notice I said one of the ways. I said one of the ways. I knew Rob was going to say something. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. And will y'all stop sending me that freethought.org page, please?
What's wrong with the freethought.org page?
You know which one I'm talking about? Is it freethought.org? Let's see. Let me make sure I got the right one. It is. It's freethoughtproject.com. Okay? Because I'm not going to watch any more videos of people being murdered by cops.
Really?
I'm not going to do it.
Really?
Okay? I'm getting something.
How beautiful, Dave.
I'm not going to do it. Stop putting that stuff on my wall, okay? I'll tell you what. I know a lot of people go to my wall. I know y'all go to my wall and look, and y'all don't want me to know y'all going to my wall. So you can post it on my wall, but I'm not watching them anymore, okay? Because I'm beginning to get real tense about them. It's kind of like I don't really want to go see Just Mercy. I don't want to go to a movie and see what I see every day in this country. I just don't. I saw the story on 60 Minutes Sunday. I just don't want to see that anymore. What I want to see, as y'all celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, a movement, a change in your attitude.
A movement. You want a movement.
I want to see that if you are commemorating Dr. King, as you all like to pretend that you are, then that means action. And that doesn't mean going and feeding the homeless. That was one of them. See, what we've allowed society to do is to bastardize Dr. Martin Luther King's movement. And it wasn't about feeding the homeless. It wasn't about cleaning up neighborhoods. It wasn't about emptying trash. It was about equality. But y'all forgot about that because you let the white man take over the message. Alrighty then. What you think about the election last night, Robert?
I thought it was interesting, man. I thought it was interesting that you had a very small turnout. I thought that was interesting.
What do you attribute that to?
Maybe just people just want to wear the election.
See, you tried to get me back on that soapbox.
What are you talking about?
How can you sit over there and say people weren't aware of the election?
Because it's possible people are not aware of the election. That is highly possible. That is highly likely.
No, Robert,
Why
why are you making excuses for these people? Why?
It's not an excuse. That's the truth, my brother. That is the truth. That is totally the truth.
And why would you think they would not be aware of the election? Do you think that they are even aware that John Walker has died?
Probably not.
Well, you know what? If that is true, then we are in a predicament. We're in a pickle.
You know, we make some. I think at some points, I think at some point we make some really, really strong assertions, and I think one of those assertions is that we assume that everybody.
Okay. I knew you gonna come with this.
Everybody.
I see. I'm ready for you today.
No, but we assume that people know
Let me ask you
who
something.
people are. Yeah.
Shouldn't you know who John Walker is? Let me ask you something. Should black people know who John Walker is?
I'd be interested to know.
I don't want a damn political answer. I just want, this is a yes or no answer, sir.
Why do you always try to say I'm giving you political answers? I've never given you a political
For someone who doesn't run for office, you sure give a lot of political answers. Okay, do black people know who John Walker was? Yes or no?
Like Dave, like when white people ask me this question, I'm gonna tell you something. I can't speak for all black folk, unfortunately, but the few I know, yeah, Dave.
So let me ask you another question. Do you think more than 693 knows about John Walker?
Probably not. That's what it looks like.
Let me ask you something. Do you think more than 693 people can tell you about what happened on Power Sunday night?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Therein lies that problem.
No. See, you and I constantly have this conversation, right?
No.
Well, we're about to have it then. You constantly assume that because a candidate runs, that people should just run out and vote for them.
No.
Because of what happened in our past.
Nope.
I'm of the new school, right? And by that, what I mean is, give me a reason to come out and vote for you. Give me a reason.
Like a chicken in every pot?
Like a chicken in every pot. That would work,
Yeah.
right? I mean, give me a reason. I mean, you got people who are out there struggling, and the last thing they care about is voting. And you're not speaking to the needs that they have. And we're not having those kind of conversations about people who are struggling in the communities by which you'll be soon serving. We're not having those kind of conversations. We're talking about these really broad issues. And to me, I mean, everybody says, well, social justice is not a broad issue. Well, do you really think I give a damn about social issues if my lights are off? Do you really think I give a damn about a pothole if I'm trying to find a place to stay? Those things are not important to me, right? And so we have candidates. Sometimes we have candidates who run. They're not talking to me, and they're not talking about things that how I can improve my life. Now I know if I vote for you,
Well, they're studying. They're studying the process.
I know. Yeah, I saw that. I know what happens if I vote for you. I know how I'm going to change your life. But how is me voting for you going to change my life? Because again, voting should have some quid pro quo with it. And unfortunately for some folks, they feel like it doesn't.
So for those folks who get ran over, ignored, then they get what they deserve, right? If you don't participate in the process, then.
So what are you telling people who do participate in the process and get run over?
Okay, so
what are you saying to them?
So
those are the people who are calling BS on you right now.
Well, those are the people who are simply throwing their votes away, because you have to have a conscious vote. You just can't be voting for people simply because they have a label.
How many people? How of the 693 people who voted yesterday? How many do you assume were conscious?
I give them 3 or 4.
Jesus, 3 or 4 people out of 693. Okay, all righty, brother. Okay, that's unique.
But do you doubt that?
I don't know.
Based on what you see in this city?
I don't know.
It's pretty clear that the voting populace don't have a clue in what they're doing. Yeah, y'all can get mad at me all you want. I don't care. I want you to get mad. Don't get mad and turn off the radio. Get mad and do something. Because y'all ain't doing nothing, man. Come on. This city is in the dumps. And a part of that, you can say, well, we don't have no leaders. Well, you the one that elect the damn leaders. So you're the problem.
Why are you always beating up on black folks, Dave?
I said
Why
you.
you always beating
Why
up
do you
on
assume
black
that that's
folks?
black folks?
Because who you talking about?
I'm talking about all y'all in this city.
I noticed you got on black folks. You didn't say anything about the white folks that didn't go vote yesterday because part of 34 is in the white folk district. But you ain't say nothing about that.
Did I not just say all?
That's my.
Did I not just say all?
No, you called black folk out.
What,
But
did
you
I
didn't
not just
call
say
white
all?
folk out. No, I'm done with
Wait a
you.
minute. Wait a
I'm
minute.
done.
Wait a minute.
Done.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm just saying, you are the majority in this city. You ought to be working coalitions with the Hispanics.
We are the majority with the Hispanics.
Would you just let me finish my thoughts, sir, please?
ahead.
You ought to be working with a coalition with Hispanics, with Asians, with Iranians, with I don't care who. And you ought to be running this
Well, you know
city.
what you should do then?
So where are the leaders who are willing to do that?
You know what you should do then?
What
the
you know?
next election, you should do a show from a polling place. What's up, dog? Call it out, player. Be who you gonna be,
They
player.
won't let us do a radio show.
Okay, how you know? You don't know till you call.
I've been in this business a long time.
Yeah, you ain't got no nuts. I thought you was David Colvin. Who are you?
I'm a black man.
You are sick. You are sick.
I'm just saying, man. 693 votes.
Yeah, out of 16,300.
That's just depressing, man.
No, it's par for the course.
Can we get 700? In the runoff, both of the candidates ought to say, our goal is to at least turn out 350 people
A piece.
apiece. And then we'll have like a tie. I'm trying to be optimistic here, Robert. I'm sorry. I am. But it gets harder and harder in the city every day. 693? I know over the weekend in the early voting, there was only like 120.
Yeah. Early voting is nothing. But I mean, even on election day, man, you still only had what? But a lot of people do vote on election day, and I'm one of them. I like to vote on election day. I don't like early voting unless I just got to, unless for some reason.
Why don't you like early voting?
Well, because I like going to my polling place. I like going to see the people who work in my polling place to say what's up, say hello, chit chat with them. Just like doing my thing with the people who work there. It's just familiarity,
Well,
Even though they ask me for my ID, they ain't really looking at it because they know it's me because I come in there and vote every time, right?
Well,
but when I go to the polling place, I got to go through a whole bunch of nonsense that I don't really care to go through. So I go to my regular polling place every Tuesday. That's where I vote. I like that. I go over to the old Oakhurst School, cast my ballot, smile, talk a little bit, laugh and joke with them, and I roll. And it's pretty cool.
Well, we got a problem in Little Rock, man.
I don't think we have a problem. So I think what's important is that we have to ask ourselves a very serious question. And that question becomes, why did people not turn out? Did they not turn out because they didn't know? Did they not turn out because, nobody spoke to the issues that they were concerned about? I mean, let's not just look at it. Let's not just say people need to come out and vote. Let's try to identify why they didn't come out and vote. Because I think that's important. I think it's important to identify why they didn't come out and vote. I mean, if you're not talking about the issues that are important to me, then why should I come out and vote? If you're not talking about how you're going to impact my community or my life in a major way or in a significant way, why am I coming out to vote? I think it's insulting. Me as a black man, I think it's insulting to say that black folks should just go vote because somebody died for you to vote. Hey, I can appreciate that. But at the end of the day, what am I going to get for voting? I see how you come up when I vote for you. How I'm going to come up because I voted for you.
But at the end of the day, someone did die for you.
And you know what? That's terrible. But again, at the end of the day,
Would you rather not have
what
the
am I
right to
going to
vote?
get? What am I going to get for voting for you? I see what you're going to get when I vote for you. What do I get when I vote for you?
Would you rather not have your right to vote?
I see what you get when I vote for you. What am I going to get when I vote for you?
So them purging the voter registration logs, them closing polling places in black neighborhoods, shouldn't bother us then, right?
No.
Okay.
Because you're not giving, what are you giving me What have you? What
Well,
am I going to gain by going
That's
to vote?
what you're
right?
saying, but
What am I going to gain by going to vote?
Well, they're not going to vote anyway. So why should
But see, that's the thing.
the city waste tax dollars to have polling places in various places in the black community when black people don't go vote?
Dave, the question is not. That is not the question.
That's the question I just asked.
No, it's not.
Let me ask that question again.
Okay.
Why should me? I'm a taxpayer too.
Okay.
Why should I waste my tax dollars to open polling places in black communities when black folks don't vote? I'm asking for a friend that's a friend of a friend that's a friend.
Well, again.
And we got a caller.
Okay. Go ahead, caller.
Caller, you're on Black Focus Radio. What's your name? What you want to talk about?
There were 16 people, I was included, who had voted in my precinct in West Little Rock by around 5 o'clock yesterday. And I think what the problem with this election, I think, was this.
Russ, any black people in your neighborhood?
Yeah. And I think people look at this and think, well, let's let them thin the herd out, and then in November when we vote for the position, that's when they'll show up. And I suspect the voter turnout for the runoff is going to be very low, because you'll see that. We saw that in the mayoral race. We had all those candidates. They had a big vote, and then when it got down to Curtis and Scott, I think it was 30,000 people in a city of almost 200,000 that voted for mayor. Might have even been a less number than that. It was just a very small amount chose the mayor. So there's just apathy out there, and I think people, unfortunately, people have the feeling is he's not going to change anything, and they don't hear people saying stuff that addresses them and where we are. It's a lot of political talk. We heard them on y'all's show. They didn't really want to answer a question without speaking in circles. They were nipping at their own tails trying to talk about stuff. You got to speak straight and address some problems. See, they need to be aware of stuff in Little Rock. They need, because this is where they're representing people, but they're representing us at the state level. But if they don't know what's going on in the city and they're not active in our city things, because not very many of these folks have I seen at city groups talking about stuff. But they've got to hone this thing out and be very specific about what they're willing to do. They wouldn't even commit on your show to change to pass a bill to change how we certify law enforcement officers.
Yeah, correct.
Well, so that's.
Well, they got to research it.
Can't complain about these cops except to the police departments, and they don't give a care.
Right.
So,
hey, Russ, quick question, Russ. Did you hear what Dave asked you earlier?
No.
Dave asked you, what do you think your black population is in your neighborhood?
Oh, well, let me tell you, the person that voted right before me was black.
See, told you. You see?
So pretty well mixed.
There you go. There are a whole lot of black folks live out west Little Rock.
What he said, though? He said it's pretty well mixed. And he only has 16. So now you got to get on the white folks with Russ.
Well, there was eight blacks and 8 whites.
Now, we got all these all these huge apartment developments that are out here in West Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay? And in my neighborhood, I've got, I'm bordered on, not the houses directly next to me, but I've got a black man who lives at the end of the corner who's a professional man, and then we've got a lady who's on the planning commission.
See? There you go, Robert.
And so, my neighborhood is pretty well mixed now. And when you get further out, some of these have more whites than others, but they're still mixed.
See, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know about Little Rock is that when they started shutting down all of the public housing, a lot of those apartment complexes out west ended up absorbing a lot of those people.
No, most of those people went to Southwest. So if you're talking about the East End, the folks from the East End, when I was a commissioner on the Housing Authority, those people, when we shut down, I can't think of the one in the East End, I can't think of the name of the complex now, but when we closed that down, a majority of them went to Southwest. So let me tell you why. Go ahead.
Well, there's a whole lot of them on Reservoir Road, too. Sure were.
And I guarantee you that most of those apartments on Green Mountain Drive, they probably have a high white population.
They do.
Lose the higher echelon apartments in, and I'm saying the high rent, when they cost over $1,000 a month because it's got all utilities. They're trying to market to medical students and millennials. So they move into those apartments, and then these other apartments have to become competitive and lower their rents and take housing vouchers that they never had to,
Yep.
just to stay in business.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but there's the population of West Little Rock has become more diversified in the last several decades than it ever was before.
Well, I know I've got a lot of people friends that live out there. So you're exactly right on that. So Robert doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, well, let me tell you, like you always talk about fact, right? So let me give you some fact, player.
Okay.
Let me
All
give you
right,
some
player.
fact, player.
Player.
So
Is that ER or A?
in 2000, in 2000, you think you slick. In 2000, when they did the 2000 census, the children living in poverty, the percentage was like, I want to say like 16%, right? Well, after they closed down the East End, when they closed down, Tuxedo Courts, and redid all those, all that traffic then went to Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
So the children living in poverty rate went from like 16 to 38. That's because of the migration of the people from the East End and from Ivory, I can't even think of it, Tuxedo Courts, right? That increased the children living in poverty population, because that population of residents then went to Southwest, because at that time, that was the only place, to some degree, that you could go where you could live, where you could get an apartment, because they had all those apartments out there. I don't know if you remember when they did those articles and they were talking about these apartments being shut down because they had
Substandard.
substandard. Substandard. They were substandard. A lot of those people, a few of them said they moved from the East End. A few of them said that they moved from the East End, and that's where they moved to. So,
But that was 20 years ago.
No.
Now they're in West Little Rock.
They just tore down Hollingsworth. Was it Hollingsworth in East End? They just tore it down back in I want to say 2006, because I was a commissioner on the housing authority. When
And that was 14 years ago.
Yeah, they actually tore that down. I can't show everybody, but I'm giving you the peace side. That was
Peace be unto you too, my brother.
Peace be unto you, my brother. They actually tore that down because at the time, Maristola wanted to give it to the airport, and as a housing authority, we couldn't give it to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was in 2000. Actually, that was 2006.
Now, let's put a linchpin. Oh, Russ, by the way, hey, thanks for calling the show, man. Appreciate it. All right. Let me put a linchpin in. So, what would have happened had Stoddler given that property to the airport?
Well,
This is a side question.
We couldn't have given it.
I know that.
Oh, what would have happened? Supposedly
They could have expanded the airport.
They were going to
right?
try to expand the airport.
The Dickens, you say?
But that was all pointless, because the airport had already said they didn't have the money to expand. So giving them the land would have been pointless. So
They didn't have the money at the time. There were no grants. There were nothing available.
So from my understanding, that kind of
There were no federal funding.
All right, you gonna let me speak?
I'm sorry.
At that time, from my understanding, the expansion that they were talking about was like a $3 million expansion.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
$300 million expansion.
Okay, so you know what that probably could have done for Little Rock?
Again, we couldn't, the housing authority, we could not just give the land to anyone.
You couldn't figure out how you could get that airport expanded, huh? You know what makes a city?
Okay, let's back up, Dave.
Is their
let me.
airport. I don't want to go into no technical jargon.
No, it's not
I'm
technical.
trying to make a point here. Is that if you want to get something done, you get it done. Forget about that. They always do.
So let's back up.
Okay.
So if you start to look at, I start to identify low income housing in our city, then at that time we only had one at the time. During this time when they were talking about giving it away, we only had one. The reason that we were willing to tear it down is because it was in need of much repair, right? And so what happened is that we were hoping to tear it down and at some point get money to go back and build something newer, better, more deserving of the residents who live there, right? And then during that process, Stoller wanted to just give the land away. Now, at the time when we did that, when we tore it down, we only had Madison Heights. It was the only low-income housing in our city. Okay, so that was the only low-income housing in our city. So we didn't have Granite Mountain. We were getting ready to do Granite Mountain Homes. We were in the process of doing Granite Mountain Homes, I should say. And so Granite Mountain was no longer there.
Granny or Granite?
Granite, whatever. Well, I'll call it Granite Mountain.
Okay.
That's how we say it out. You can say Granite Mountain if you want to. If you want to nicely.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
But we call it Granite Mountain.
Okay.
So you didn't have Granite Mountain. You didn't have.
By the way, you know why Granite Mountain was created, right?
What? No, tell me.
It was
Remind me.
created to further segregate black people in Little Rock.
Okay.
That's why they built Gillum Park and Gillum Pool.
But you know what's okay? We'll get back to that. But so we didn't have enough housing. So if you understand how the tax credits work, the low income housing tax credits work, that if you see all these apartments being built, those apartments are being built with low income tax credits. People call them LIDL. So this is the deal. You ready? So let me break it down for you. Right? If when we had well, I want to say the name of it was Hollingsworth. I'm not sure if that was the name of the one in the East End. Okay, so with LIDL or low income tax credits, you only have to rent. So if you got 300 units, okay, if you got 300 housing units, 300 apartments, then technically you have to rent so many at 300%, so many at 100% below poverty, and so many at 50% below poverty, right? So think about that. If you got 300, that means you only got to rent 100 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's like,
So,
I can't remember the percentage.
so what's your point?
My point is that with everybody who's building these apartments, even though they have 300 units, they're not giving 300 units to low income residents. It's not happening. So there's this thing that we believe that these people are getting housing, and it's not there because they don't have to rent. They don't have to rent to people who are below poverty, or people who even on housing vouchers. They don't have to rent to them.
So what's your point?
That's my point for them not expanding the airport. I know you want to expand the airport, and you just want to make everything bigger, but it's much bigger than that. And I think it would be important for you to sit down sometimes and let me walk you through that.
Okay, Robert.
That was a good one. Okay. Hey Russ, thanks for that, man. We needed that.
Thanks for the info, Russ. So, but we got off on this tangent on that. Oh, by the way, I discovered I thought Amazon was not coming to Little Rock.
What do you mean? They're in North Little Rock.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Well, apparently, I think there's, what did he say? A 24,000 foot Amazon distribution center is being built out near the Riverport.
Yeah, but that part is being built in is North Little Rock.
No, it's not North Little Rock until you go across the river.
So hold on, Amazon is building in the. I thought
Amazon
was building in North Little Rock down there.
I thought it was too, but I was talking to a guy this morning who actually owns a diesel repair company out off of Fush Dam.
Yeah.
And met him this morning drinking coffee, and we just got to talking, and he said, down where I live, where I'm working, I bought this company, and they're building, or maybe he said a 55,000 square foot warehouse.
I'm gonna send somebody a text and make sure.
I'm pretty sure, and like I said, it wasn't in North Little Rock. If you go exit 5 on 440, which is Fush Dam, you're not in North Little Rock. That's Little Rock. You know where I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's Little Rock. And he said he bought a company, which is a diesel engine repair and truck company, and He says, I would argue that there's 500 dump trucks come through here every day. So I said, I thought it was going to go in North Little Rock. He said, well, apparently they decided that that was not going to fit their needs. So that temporary site down there on Locust Street, according to him, it ain't going to happen. I'm just saying. I just thought I'd throw that out. Because I thought about that. Yeah, I'd be curious. Okay, because I'd be curious because, like I said, he just bought a company out there. I said, oh, really? So, anyway, 855-525-5683 is the number. Yesterday, Robert, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the show, but I talked a lot about Kimberly Gardner yesterday. Kimberly Gardner is a circuit attorney who has filed suit against the St. Louis Police Department, many St. Louis officials, and the FOP in St. Louis for conspiring to violate her civil rights. Now, why this is important is because yesterday, after the show, and this morning, this story has blown up. Because she's using a law called the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Okay? Which shocks me. Again, I use this as another example of why you need to vote people in office that know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
Okay? So clearly this young lady knows what she's doing.
Right.
All right? Because she's saying that officials in St. Louis, and man, this is a hornet's nest. They've threatened to kill this woman and everything. But it has blown up nationally. I guess the story broke over the weekend. I talked about it yesterday on the show, and yesterday afternoon when I got home, it was all over the internet. Not saying that because of me,
because of our show,
but
we do that all the time.
The fact is, well, look, we talked about the Iranians bombing Trump properties.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, they put it up, right? And then, I mean, between us and Russ, man, we need to start our own. They scooping off of Russ's page.
I know.
They scooping off for our show. I mean, what's up, man?
Man, this is crazy, man.
What's up?
But the point is that we need to pay attention to that story, and I wanted to say that those of you who all think that we just get on this show and just run our mouths and don't know what the hell we're talking about, that is one more of the many examples that we've shown you of how we are talking about things ahead of its time, so to speak, okay? Not to brag, not to pat ourselves on the back, but every now and then we have to do that because we want you to understand that we are talking about everyday issues, whether it's local, nationally, or internationally, and that story is a story to keep your eye on. Right. So I wanted to remind people of that yesterday. Today. Also, I want to remind people, tomorrow we are going to have Michael Semanga on the show. Dr. Semanga is a brilliant scholar, organizer, educator, poet, and author of several thought-provoking books. He will be at Philander Smith College tomorrow as well to celebrate the Martin Luther King exhibit. Little Rock Central National Historic Site, in partnership with Philander Smith College, announces public programs with motivational performer Stephen Ferguson and civil rights activist and educator Dr. Michael Semanga. The two events are in cooperation with the National Park Service and the 400 Years of African American History programming. Stephen Ferguson will perform at Philander on Thursday the 16th. Dr. Semanga will speak at Philander on Friday the 17th. But on the 16th at 1 o'clock, tomorrow, he'll be right here in studio.
That's what's up.
Okay?
That's what's up.
So it ought to be an interesting show. We're going to keep him as long as we can. We're looking forward to hearing some of the things that he has to say about some of the current events that are going on in the black community. And if you want, you can go out to my wall, and I'll post this on the Black Focus wall as well, and look at his bio. This is a powerful brother, and we are excited to have him on. And I want to shout out to Patrick Oliver, Patty Pat,
what up, Pat?
For helping set this up as well. So we are looking forward to it, and Patrick will probably be here tomorrow as well.
That's what's up.
So I wanted to remind people of that before we moved to the next hour. Now, next hour, there are a couple of things I need Robert to weigh in on that I want to broach the subject, because I don't know if you heard about Paula White and the golden horse that Trump's riding. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Well, we need to start asking the questions, because my question to many, or at least in the tease, was, what would you do if you realized that your enemy, you were worshiping with your enemy? And at some point, somebody's going to have to realize that. So we're going to talk about that next hour. And also, we've got a couple of other things that we're going to get into as well. So stay tuned, tell a friend, go ahead and log in. By the way, make sure you go out and read the article about Kemet Mayat, Before Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I'm trying to educate y'all, okay? Because the only way we can change this is we got to educate each other, okay? You can't get mad. You can't get mad.
Why can't I get mad at that?
Well, you can get mad because you didn't know, but then get mad and do something about it. Okay?
Okay.
And let me ask you another question. You know, these politicians are cutting entitlements left and right. Mm-hmm. When are the taxpayers going to cut their entitlements? Because many of them have been living on the taxpayer dole for 20, 30 years. Shouldn't the same medicine be good for them as well?
Yeah, but I don't think taxpayers. I don't think we understand that they're living on entitlements. I don't think we really understand.
I know, because we don't vote. Back in a moment.
Whew, man. It's about to be on. That was a good one. You got me on that one.
You say what?
That was a good one. You got me on that one. I wonder how long my watch been dead, man. I just realized I kept looking at my watch and saying,
I don't even worry. Man, I used to have a bad watch when I was growing up. It had to be, a certain type, one that nobody else was gonna have. Man, I ain't had a watch now in decades. At least since cell phones came out.
Hey folks, are you looking for a place to exchange ideas and talk about the issues that affect our community? Then join me, David W. Coleman, and my co-host, Robert Webb, for Black Focus
see how many
Radio,
people we
every
have
Monday
this
through
time.
Friday, noon to 2 p.m. on joinetradio.com. We like to say, it's our issues.
You don't have a battery in it.
Our voices.
oh, I did. I took it out. Damn, I'm tripping now. I took the battery out so I could get it fixed.
Facebook.
That's so I could buy one now and forgot. I'm losing my damn mind.
It's called old man's disease.
I'm losing my mind.
Hello to quality time at Marco's. Hello to being a game changer, an original. And to those who make it authentic, we say hello with the Founder Select Pizza, Old World Pepperoni, sliced Italian sausage, mushrooms, on dough made fresh every day, and a sauce from the original Gianmarco recipe. Hello to an Old World original. Every store, every day, the Italian way. Hello, Primo.
Serving the families of Clark County and the surrounding area since 1966, it's Mitchell Funeral Home. Understanding that a funeral is a celebration of life, the entire staff of Mitchell Funeral Home takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional service they offer. Cremations, funeral plannings, burial policies, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are a few of the services we offer. Mitchell Funeral Home, Arkadelphia, 870-246-2611. Mitchell Funeral Home. Quality.
See, they sent me another one of these free thought projects things. Insane cop tasers teen on a bicycle over popping and wheeling. I can't watch it. I'm just not gonna watch it. I'm not. Just don't want to watch it.
Personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines for my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above, I look marvelous.
I saw this report yesterday where this guy, I think he was either in Utah or Idaho, this black guy and his girlfriend. He took a girlfriend out to celebrate her birthday, if I remember correctly. And they went to a pool hall, and a known white supremacist came into the pool hall, started harassing him, calling him all kinds of racial epithets and things of that nature. And so the guy decided, well, come on, let's go, we're gonna leave. The guy followed him out, kept up the same antics, and squared up on him. And the victim squared up on him and punched him and knocked him out cold, one punch. It just so happens that the black guy was a boxer.
Pick your battles wisely, player.
So,
Just got knocked the fuck out.
so when the guy comes to, he had been arrested. And he started espousing this lie about he was the victim and how they had attacked him. But fortunately, there were some good people who had witnessed the entire incident and told the cops that what had really happened. But that's the point. Is that if they know, I guarantee you, he's gonna take real extreme caution the next time he walks up on a black person talking that noise. Okay?
Knock your ass out.
That's what I'm saying. We ain't our grandparents. So, but that's the point. And that's what's gonna have to start happening until these people get the message. Because we done tried everything else. You done tried peace and prayer. That ain't work.
I ain't got nothing for him but this. I ain't got nothing for him but these hands. These hands.
All right, welcome back to the show.
These
Black Focus
hands.
Radio, our issues, our solutions, our
These
voices.
hands.
855.
These hands.
Calm down, Robin. I was telling Robin in
hands
a
for you,
story
baby.
about a white supremacist getting knocked out.
Yeah. I got nothing for him but these hands.
And it was and it was reported. By the way, that reminds me, did the local news even cover the election?
No, they usually don't cover special elections. They only do the big thing when it's a
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What did you just say to me?
They only do the big thing. They don't usually.
Okay.
They don't usually have.
Did they report on the election?
I think they made mention of it. They made mention of it Monday, or I think they made mention of it Monday and Tuesday.
Did they report the results?
I don't know. I didn't watch the news last night, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Wouldn't you think that it would be on their website?
Yeah, probably. More than likely, it should be.
You said should be.
It should be, yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at KATV on their website.
Okay.
KATV says in a small box to advance and runoff primary for Arkansas House seat. Okay.
Okay.
That's local news. Okay. I go out to KARK.
694 voting yesterday. I was wrong.
694. Oh, we got added one to the group, right?
694.
Ooh, yeah, man, we getting on up there. We almost at 700.
So on election day, you had 500. Well, it was 492 people who voted on election day. 492. You had 163 that early voted, and you had 39 people who filled out absentee ballots or requested and filled out absentee ballots.
As they hurry up, they could still vote. So on KATV and KARK, both of them have little blurbs about the election. And as I go out to KTHV, Channel 11, looking at their website, and I want to be fair,
Okay.
because I've already looked earlier,
Okay.
ain't nothing on there about the election.
Ain't nothing on there.
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, like I said, man, it's not uncommon for the news folks not to cover special elections, unless of course it's a big issue. It's a big issue around it. Usually don't get a lot of
The
coverage
most
for it.
ballyhooed seat in the legislature that was once owned by John Walker Jr., one of the most significant,
Not owned, but held.
held, one of the most significant, not just black persons, but persons in Arkansas history, not just Little Rock history.
National history.
You see what I'm saying? And you're telling me that you're not going to cover that seat
No.
in the news?
Because they-
well, you ain't no damn news.
Because
That's crazy.
well,
I got a hunt to try to find out what the election is,
Nah.
and you based in Little
if
Rock?
you ever want to know the results to any election, just go to votepulaski.net.
Well, I
Any
know.
election, go to vote. If you're in
But
Pulaski
I'm
County,
simply
go to
saying,
vote
stop
Pulaski.
calling yourselves news outlets when you don't cover
Just
news.
on everybody today.
Man,
Why you ain't saying nothing about white folks who didn't go vote yesterday? You still have
I'm-
you have yet to get on there.
I'm headed in that
And
direction.
Russ said his neighborhood was, half and half.
I'm headed in that direction.
Okay, why don't
But
you
I
go
wanted to get this in because the people that y'all claim that you're getting news from, you're getting fluff. Okay? You're getting, oh, that suit you have on is so cute. Oh, isn't that a cute little puppy dog?
And by the way, when Don was on the show, Don did say he was my friend. So the truth is, I do have a lot of white friends. Don is my friend.
I'm sorry.
Don Wood
Done.
is my friend.
I'm sorry. Done.
Just Community, Don Wood. Shout out, bro. Peace.
I'm sorry. Done.
That's my homie. He's my homie. We cool.
Yeah.
We cool.
Well,
peeps.
don't let me see you in public with Robert.
But I have some white friends. So y'all can quit saying all the crazy stuff y'all say.
I have white friends too.
Really? No, you saw all your white friends are Trump lovers, so they're no longer your friends.
Yeah, they kind of falling off the
Hey,
wagon.
if my friends are Trump lovers, I still love them. I ain't got no issue with them. I'm down with them. I'm cool with that. I can't
Okay.
get black supremacists and fault them for being white supremacists. How can I do that, player? I can't do that. That's just wrong. Go ahead, dog. What you got?
So, this hour, I want to talk about black Christians.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay?
Because
Because
it's gonna be painful.
no, it isn't. Because I need their help.
Oh, okay.
I,
Sounds good.
I,
Let's do
I,
it.
I need their help.
Okay. What can we
Okay.
help you with, my friend?
So,
Dad, what can we help you with, my friend? Why you laughing, man?
no, I'm not laughing. I'm getting ready to duck
Why?
in case that lightning bolt come through the ceiling. Anyway, I need you all's help, black Christians.
Okay.
Okay? Because for far too long, you've been sitting on the sideline while the Talibangelists have been acting damn fools. Okay? And I really need you all to start standing up for your people. Okay? So, for instance, 7 days ago, Paula White said she saw Donald Trump riding a golden horse alongside Jesus during Armageddon.
Was Jesus black or white?
She didn't say, but I'm wondering.
okay.
I was going to ask her what kind of drugs she's smoking because I need some. Does it help? Does it help her back?
So hold on. Paula White said she saw Jesus and Trump riding side by side on a gold horse.
On a golden horse
On a golden horse.
alongside Jesus during
Alongside
Armageddon.
Jesus. You know, I'm gonna tell you something, man.
Okay.
I have to tell you this because I think it's just amazing. I really love these people. I really do.
Oh, I got
I
more.
wish I was
though.
a comedian. Go ahead.
I got more though.
Okay.
No, go ahead and finish your point.
I mean, I just wish I was a comedian because sometimes I wonder. They are willing to do whatever they are willing to do anything to support their candidate, regardless. They're doing whatever they can. Go ahead.
Okay. Christian pastor, I support Trump, even if he ran a dogfighting ring on Mother Teresa's grave while having multiple affairs.
Really? Ooh. Well, I guess it's true what Trump said, right? I could murder somebody on Fifth Avenue and still get elected.
So, a point is this. Now, here's an article that was published on The Root. It says black church leaders call out white Talibangelists for supporting MAGA Jesus.
I'm curious though. This is what I've always been curious about. You ready? So I've always been curious. Why is it that white pastors can come out and say whatever they like, right? Whatever they like, whenever they like. Even when Obama was president, they said all kinds of stuff about Obama, and nobody ever called into question their 501c3.
No.
So why is it that black churches don't do the same thing? Why are they not comfortable employing the same tactics that the white churches use? I mean, I'm curious to know what's the difference. I mean, seriously, what's the difference? You don't hear
Fear?
You don't even hear like you don't even hear like your TD Jakes or your Creflo Dollars. I mean, you don't even hear these guys even saying anything.
Are you talking about Creflo steal my dollars?
No, Creflo need a plain dollar.
Oh, okay.
That's my dude, though. you never hear these guys come out and say anything. So that's what always troubles me. It always makes me wonder, why is it different for those churches versus the black mega churches?
Well, part of the reason is that we don't have. A lot of people have to understand when you go back and you look at some of the things that happened in the '60s with the attorneys and the suing of cities and states for discrimination. A lot of those black attorneys were doing it pro bono. Okay, you do know that, right?
Right.
Today, we don't have that conglomerate of black attorneys that are willing to step out there and do what's right as opposed to do what's signing my checks. Now, ain't nothing wrong with that, but we need more black attorneys to do that. So, for instance, you have Jay-Z suing the state of Mississippi because of the deaths that are taking place in Mississippi in their prison system. Why haven't attorneys stepped up to do that, black attorneys? Now, I'm not trying to call them into question. I'm just simply saying is that a lot of things, that Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 was actually the same act that the FBI and many other federal agencies used to disband, or at least to attempt to disband the Klan in the late 70s and 80s. Because Tom Metzger right now is under a multi-million-dollar judgment for harassment as a Klansman. That's why you don't hear about him anymore. He's still alive, okay? So my point being is that either we're too smart for our own good or we're too dumb to know anything, okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, because there are laws on the book, and I go back to the sister in St. Louis. I go back to her, Kimberly Gardner, who decided to take laws that were on the books and use against people who are committing atrocities as it relates to black people. Mm-hmm. We could do that too. The problem is that I think many of us are more concerned about getting ours as opposed to helping others. Right. And that's sad. And therein lies the problem. And when you talk about black churches, you're exactly right. The argument was they got a bunch of right-wing attorneys and went after a few black churches when they were supporting Obama openly. Right. Okay? We can do the same thing, but why don't we? And that's an excellent question.
Well, not even saying that. I mean, Jeremiah, I can't remember his name now. Jeremiah, he never said anything.
Jeremiah Wright.
He never said anything about a president, a sitting president, right? Everything that I heard, even the stuff I went back and listened to, he never talked about the president. He talked about the issues or the issues that were going on in our country and the impact of those issues biblically, right? Mm. So all of his stuff was kind of connected. It kind of had a biblical tie to it. It wasn't.
He also talked about the origin of man. And they were that it was black and all that.
But he was not doing what these guys do. Mm. These guys are openly black bashing presidents, right? Right. He was not doing that. Right. His was a little different.
By the way, that was when I lost faith in Obama.
Wow. When he disassociated? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of disappointing. But, I will give credit where credit's due. So when they asked Trump, and I'll never forget this, I remember I was watching it because I wanted to go back and I wanted to really watch and see what happened. When Trump was on CNN or whatever show it was, and they said, hey, will you disassociate from David Duke, right? Now, he never said, no, I won't, right? He said, I don't know enough about him yet. Now, I thought that was classic. Let me tell you why. In a presidential election, right? In a presidential election, you want as much press as you can get. And this guy, every time, figured out a way to keep the press talking about him. I mean, all you heard during the campaign was Trump, Trump, Trump. He was always saying something outrageous. He was always doing something different. He was always doing something that people found offensive. And I say that to say this now. So when people start talking about Trump's not going to be back in 12 years or in 4 years or 6 months or whatever it is, that's BS. He's going to be elected right back where he was. Last night, Joe Biden says, our country is in a terrible place. We've never been here before. What the hell are you talking about? We always been here. You mean you ain't never been here before? You uncomfortable now? We've been uncomfortable for years. Ain't nobody never said nothing. Now you uncomfortable?
Did you just bring up the debate on my show?
I didn't mean to. I apologize. That was accidental.
Is that what that was? Is that where that came
That
from?
was accidental. Yeah, that did come from the
I
show.
purposely have ignored them.
Yeah. Well, last night was a little. Last night was a little.
It wasn't. They weren't talking about us.
No, they never do.
There wasn't even no black folks on the stage.
Well, not even that though. I mean, still, you're giving me rhetoric. You're not giving me anything that I can go, that makes sense.
What do you expect from Joe Biden, the authenticator of the crime bill of 1994?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it.
But not only Joe.
And it's true.
Not only Joe. I mean, Elizabeth Warren was there at the time. She voted for it. I mean, they all were supportive of it. But again, like I said, we never look. I don't think
Elizabeth Warren was in Congress in
and I think
'94.
she was. She's been there 30 years.
Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah.
Are you
She's been
sure?
there 30 years, yeah.
I know. I don't think
Bernie
so.
Sanders was?
I know
think
Bernie
they've been there-
Sanders was, but I don't think. I thought Elizabeth Warren just got elected. What, 12 years ago?
No, I think she's been there 30 years.
No, I don't think so. Check that. Check
I'm
it.
going to check it right now. I think she's been there 30 years.
But the point of me bringing this up is that black churches have got to start speaking up. You know,
She's Indian.
you know why you're losing so many millennials? I read an article the other day about black millennials, and they feel like that you are not doing anything for them.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
You know why there were so many people in church when I was growing up? Because the church was the meeting house. That's where everything got done in our communities. Okay? When we needed something done, Reverend Mitchum would go talk to Reverend Etna, and Reverend Etna would go talk to Reverend Reed, and Reverend Reed would go talk to Reverend Wilson. And it didn't matter whether or not you were AME, CMA, Church of God in Christ, you all had one thing in common, and that one thing in common was your blackness. And now you've been sectioned off for 30 pieces of silver. You're selling your communities down the river for 30 pieces of silver, and you are allowing white churches, white Christian, so-called Christian people, to espouse outright bigotry, racism, and lies, and you sit back and you do nothing.
Yeah, so, yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
So you're right. She hadn't been there 30 years. I thought she had
Right.
been there 30
No.
years. She hadn't been there.
She's recent.
She's on. I think it's from looking at this. I think she just got there in 13.
Yeah, she hadn't been. She'd been there that
But
long.
what's the issue for me is, and will always be, is that during the civil rights movement, the black churches led the movement. You knew if you wanted to know something about the movement, you go to a black church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that's not the case. We are not as entrenched, or the black church is not as entrenched.
Well, you know
in
why.
issues as it used to be.
They're sucking on the government's.
Well, I don't think it's so much the government. I think it's the
yes,
southern.
it is.
I think it's the
Oh, yes,
southern.
it is.
What is the conference? The Southern Religion.
Well,
Conference,
the
whatever it is.
Southern Christian
Leadership thing?
No, you're talking
No,
about.
no,
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 you're
no.
talking about the Southern Baptist Convention.
Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah,
I think
I'm going to
because
talk
they're
about
tied
that.
into that. I think
All
that's
churches are
why.
not tied into that, though.
A lot of the churches here,
The Baptist church.
the Baptist churches are tied
Right.
into those, and I believe that's why
Okay.
they are not as prevalent on issues as they should.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. The main reason,
What's the
and
main
we've
reason?
talked about it before, is nonprofits, 501c3 designation.
Okay.
When you are a 501c3, you theoretically cannot have a political speech. You must be apolitical, or your 501c3 can be revoked. All right?
Okay.
So let me tell you how this started. Because what do? In fact, we're going to have a grant seminar in about 30 days. I'll be posting that here this weekend.
Okay.
So here's what happened about 2000. And the reason it was about 95. This is when I first started going through my divorce. I got into this fathers' rights movement. And then, of course, I had done some rites of passage camps. We had set up a 501c3 in order to get money from the state in order to do the rites of passage camps. And I began to realize that the new thing that was going on in the black community, in black churches, were white agents or black people, white people in blackface,
Okay.
were going to churches in the community and saying, hey, I heard about your feeding a lot of people. Well, guess what? If you have a 501c3, the government will help you pay for that.
Right.
Okay? So you begin, oh, you want a daycare? Well, why don't you set it up as a 501c3 and you can have a daycare and the government will pay for the lunches
Right. Yeah.
or whatever. So what happened, you had a rash of people, black churches, setting up 501c3s and looking for grants. Around 2000, I would have a seminar in Nashville for $79.95, and it would be 100 people or more.
Okay.
Okay, and I was doing them once a quarter.
Okay.
Okay, so what they didn't realize is that they got sold a bill of goods. So their activism that they had normally participated in, many of them no longer could do that because it was not apolitical.
Right. They should have been what, 501c4?
Okay, those didn't exist back then.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so many of them now have become drunk on that taxpayer dollar to fund their various things under the 501c3 banner.
Right.
That now, when Obama was elected, many of them became very aware because some churches were being sued by white profiteers to say, hey, you can't say that. So they basically dropped everything. So that today is why many black churches don't say much or anything about political speech. The only ones that do that are the ones who are not 501c3. And many of them, I talked to a lot of pastors in the Nashville area who said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read the fine print.
Right.
I did not know that we could not be political. I did not know that we could not host dinners for Democratic candidates. But think about it. See, the Republicans have been insidious on how they have kept power in state houses and in the Senate. Here's what they did. They went after 501c3s. They went after unions. Those are the two main entities, or black churches, I should say. Those are the two main entities that have supported Democratic candidates in this generation. So what do? You attack that institution. And that's what the Republicans did. And we had no clue that it was going on. So when Obama was going through and getting elected in all those black churches, that's why they got silent. And that's why they remain silent today, because they are suckling off the pig's tit of the government. That's what this really boils down to. Now, those churches that are not 501c3s, there are many pastors that I've met that I would say, why aren't you 501c3? Those, and you'd be surprised, these were the old country pastors.
What they say?
I don't want that government in my business.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the problem. Now, until black churches understand, or we have a cluster of black attorneys who will go after white churches who are doing the exact same
Or
thing,
just protect the black church.
or protect the black churches, well, you're going to have to fight back. Until we get a cluster of those individuals who say, well, wait a minute, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we can't do it, y'all can't do it.
You know, I'm disappointed in the black church, but I can't blame the black church entirely.
It's not a blame.
I also have to be disappointed in black congregations, because
Right.
you're going to this church asking these pastors, pray for my son, he just got locked up, he just got arrested. I mean, all the issues that you face, I mean, that's the only place people are going and telling their pastors what's happening in their lives, and for them not to challenge their churches to do more, I think is a problem.
Well,
Because they're not challenging their churches to do more.
well, the church are the people.
Yeah.
That's what I've always been taught, and I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
So if in fact that you want your church to be an involved church, then you have to demand that from your pastor. One of the things that
That's a challenge.
one of the things that I've always, and I guess because I grew up CME, and every year, 2 years, 3 years, depending, we might lose our pastor. Okay?
Why would you lose him?
Because they rotate in the CME, they rotate pastors.
Okay.
Okay?
Keep
That-
you from getting comfortable.
exactly.
Okay.
What you find in a lot of churches, black churches, is that Reverend, are you black enough, started the church. He wrote the bylaws to the church. And he's going to make sure that no matter what happened, this is my church.
It's my church, yeah.
How many times have you heard that? Numerous, right? How many times have you heard where the congregation is trying to get rid of the pastor and you can't get rid of the pastor because he's the one that started the church?
Because the man that got to kick you out died 12 years ago.
Exactly. So therein lies the problem. And if we don't start realizing, and the reason people say, well, why are you always tough on the black church? Is because, see, I understand the power of the black church. I understand the history of the black church and how, if not for the black church, we would not be sitting here today doing a talk show. You'd probably be breeding somewhere, and I'd probably be dead because I done ran away and killed a whole lot of white folks.
We have a ton of black churches, and what I'd really love to see them do is come together collectively.
Yeah.
And create a bank, a black bank. That would be amazing.
Well, remember the story last summer that we brought up about the AME church had decided that they were going to take their money out of regular banks and put them in black banks. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to the AME national headquarters, hoping to get someone on to talk about that decision.
Yeah.
We're still waiting.
Well, they're probably really busy trying to move their money. They got a lot of money to move. Black folks give a lot of money to church.
So I did research to see if they have followed up on that concept.
No.
To my knowledge, I could be wrong, but they haven't.
Maybe some bank went to them. So maybe it's Bank of America said, "Hey, you have a problem."
Bank of America is one of the most racist banks in America.
They are, but maybe.
By the way, earn millions of dollars off of slave labor.
I mean, come on, man. Name an entity in this city.
J.P. Morgan Chase.
That is huge. That has not benefited from slavery.
That's my point.
They all have. I just think, I keep saying this, and hopefully somebody at some point hear me. I think as black folks, we gotta take the same mentality that white folks take. It's all about the money. Let's make money. Let's do whatever we gotta do to make money. Do whatever we gotta do to feed ourselves. Let's do whatever we gotta do, whatever that is, however that looks, however that sounds. Because I appreciate white people for that. They have that mentality. I need to make this money. Screw everything else. I need to make this money.
I don't want to be like that.
No, you don't want to do that because you want to go to church. That's why we never can get ahead, because y'all want to go to church.
I don't go to church, Robert.
You want to go get all. I got my morals and I got my ethics.
No, I just don't want to be like white people.
So when you're sitting at home eating ramen noodles, I'm gonna ask you about your.
I wouldn't eat ramen noodles.
You don't like Romans?
No, ramen noodles is the worst thing you can eat.
You're not a black man.
I make my own noodles.
You're not a black man. Every black man eats ramen noodles.
I don't. I make my own.
It's a rite of passage.
No.
Dave, you bougie. You a bougie.
I've eaten ramen noodles 3 times, and then they also said there's something health conscious related that's wrong with ramen noodles. So you need to stop eating those things. Less, especially high in sodium and all that other mess that they put in them. But I'm just saying, at some point, I stand here today, or sit here for that matter. I believe the key to our salvation is the black church. And I believe that,
I don't believe that's the key to our salvation.
Well,
because I think if you're going to really win this game, we got to be about it.
Well,
if you've been in the black church, you ain't going to be able to be about it. Because Pastor's going to be
you see what you're doing, Robert. But what you're doing is thinking about today's black church.
You're trying to update the black church.
I'm thinking about yesteryear's black church. I'm thinking about that black church that who would have the meetings while the slaves were escaping. That black church.
Dave, I think you done missed that one, bro. I think that ship is sailed. As a matter of fact,
Don't burst my bubble.
That ship is
I gotta
sunk.
believe that at some point when you think there's a reason why so many of those men who led the civil rights struggle were ministers.
How can you go to any black church? How can you go to any black church on any given Sunday and the pastor's not talking about some of the social ills in that community on that day?
But see, you're talking about today's
It's not gonna
black
happen.
church.
No.
I'm talking about the black church I grew up in.
They have taught themselves, Dave. They do not address issues
Don't
of
burst
today.
my bubble.
They don't do it.
I'm hoping that some of them out there are listening.
Name me one black church or pastor that you have seen at an event that we've went to. Name me one, other than JC. Name me one that you've seen. I'll wait. Should we go to commercial, or do you want me to just go and come back tomorrow?
See why you doing that?
I'm just asking because you know there is not one.
But see, I'm trying.
You're giving them too much. You're giving the black church or the black pastor. You're giving him too much and honestly, he can't deserve it.
I'm not giving him anything.
They have not spoke out and I take that back, Benny Johnson. But with the exception of Benny,
But does he have a church? I know he's a minister.
I think Benny does have a church.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right.
But with the exception of Benny and a couple other guys, man, these guys are not.
Benny Johnson, see?
These guys, Benny doesn't count. I said.
I got sick. Look at
I
you.
said the exception. Benny's the exception. Benny and JC and some other cats are the exception, not the rule. But the point I want to make here is the issues that we face in the black community. We could access all that money they have out there. We could access all that money with the help of the black church. So $600 billion we could access to put black folks to work if we could access the money.
I know.
If we could access the money.
So, and you make a good point because, I talk about doing my first rites of passage camps was done through a black church. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that black church, at the time I was an acting youth director.
So, for this, I meant to ask you a question. Remind me to ask you off the show. I'm not going to waste time.
Okay. So that black church, and by the way, Bill Atkins, who was one of the original if you know anything about radio and particularly WDIA in Memphis, one of the early shows in Memphis was the Steele and Bill show, a very popular show that was on WDIA. WDIA is one of the oldest black radio stations in the country. Well, Bill Atkins has always been he's now a minister. He started Great El Money Church in Memphis, and through that church, that's how we were able to do the Rites of Passage camp. We went to Representative Henry Brooks. Henry Brooks told us about some grants. Can you write a grant? And that was my first foray into writing grants. Okay. My point being is that you're right, Robert. You can access millions and millions of dollars through churches, but for whatever reasons, these churches refuse to come together because if it's not my idea, then I don't want it. And therein lies the problem. So I say the solution to our problem is the black church because think about it from this perspective. How many, I posted a story about Somalis, I believe it was in Detroit, who are buying houses without banks. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you all saw that story. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why is it that churches can't come together in any city across this country, black churches, and pool their monies and set up credit unions? Or even not go that far, set up loan operations in their churches, small business loans, micro loans for people. Why can't you do that?
What's the point of that?
What do you mean, what's the point
How
of
does
that?
that benefit the church? You don't get no souls in heaven with no crap like that.
Well, I'll tell you how it benefits. It's the same way that all the people...
You ain't getting no souls in heaven.
Wait a minute. You are, because you're teaching them how to feed themselves.
Nah, Dave, that ain't what church about. Church ain't about that. Church
Well, wait a minute.
Feeding your spirit.
But wait a minute.
Feeding your spirit.
How many fishes and barley loaves did Jesus have to feed the multitude?
Dave, we ain't doing that, Dave. We ain't Jesus. That's what Jesus did. We the church. We just feeding your spirit. Now, if you're hungry You need to go find somebody to feed you, but we gonna feed your spirit while you're up in here.
See, why you shooting down my idea?
I'm just
trying to be
Dave.
positive.
I'm just telling you, Dave. That's where it is, bro.
I'm trying. The key, and
key
Tanya
is-
says the black church is not going to save us. See, y'all are getting caught up in today's black church.
Dave, you are naive as hell if you think that you in some futuristic church where everybody's just standing around holding hands singing "Kumbaya."
I'm not.
Let's go get them.
I'm saying today. I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, finish. You thinking about what?
I'm just saying churches of the past were the churches that brought us to where we are.
Name one.
Well, I'll name one. Bullock Temple was one of them. Reed Memorial was one of them. Mother Emanuel in South Carolina, where Denmark Vesey in 1825 started that church. The AME church as a whole. You see, I'm simply saying is that it's kind of like voting. What are you telling your minister you want done? Okay? Are you just happy to go to church and feel good and leave and not expect your church to do things in the community? To affect and actually address black issues? Because if that's what's going on in your church, I question your church, because at some point, and the whole reason we're talking about this is that white churches are running roughshod over our civil rights under the guise of Jesus. And black churches are sitting back and not doing a damn thing about it. You're not even questioning them. You're not even saying, hey, wait a minute, dog. Oh, no, no, that ain't right. According to the word, are you reading the same Bible I'm reading? Why aren't y'all doing that? Because if you're not, and I was referencing an article, black church leaders call out white evangelicals for supporting MAGA Jesus. You should be doing more than calling them out. You ought to be writing articles. You ought to be on the media talking about this. How is it that you can say that you're a Christian and you're allowing some of the things to go on in this country? What Bible are y'all reading? Are y'all reading the same Bible that we're reading? I don't know, but I'm simply saying is that the black church is the key. It was the key then. It may not be now, but think about it. What other entity in America that congregates more black people than the black church? There ain't none. So if you want to get a message out, it has to go through the black church. The problem is not necessarily the black church. It's some of the people that's leading those black churches. I know someone right here in Little Rock who led a prominent black church, who will go nameless, is staunch Republican.
What are you talking about, Mr. Williams? Why you dogging him?
I didn't say.
He ain't ashamed of it. Why should you?
I didn't say any name.
Why should you be?
I could have said Iverson Jackson.
Who was that? Nobody knows who that is. You don't be making up names on the show. You talking about Reverend Williams?
No.
Yeah, you talking about Reverend Williams?
I'm talking about a lot of them here.
Not a lot of them, Dave.
A lot of
No,
them here.
Dave. No, they're Democrats. They're all Dems.
You'd be shocked at some of the information I know.
Dave, if you know it, you gotta tell it. You're a journalist, player. You're on a radio show.
I have to keep my sources.
Tell the truth and shame the Democrats, shame the Republicans.
I tell the truth and shame the Republicans every damn chance I get.
Well, come on, tell us who they are. Who are these black pastors?
But I have to keep
to
keep my sources secure.
Who are these black pastors?
Okay, to be an effective journalist as I am.
Just give us the church name.
I don't really know their.
Just give us the street name. Come on, Dave. You can't bring up something like that then get quiet, Dave. And they didn't even like you. They must got something on you.
I just. Yeah, right. Nothing.
They got a video of you. You got a video doing something you ain't got no business, Dave. What's up, Dave? You ain't telling your boy. Come on, talk to your boy, Dave.
But I'm just simply saying, today's black church has been bastardized. It is not the church that was developed for black people. The black church was a place of freedom. It's no longer that today. And if we're going to change, look, you don't even have to be political. You don't even have, all you got to do is say, hey, I'm going to go down the street to Reverend so-and-so's church. And then I'm going to go up the street to Reverend so-and-so's church. And then I'm going to go around the corner to Sister Reverend so-and-so's church. And I'm going to say, the four of us, let's come together and build a conglomerate. Now, what I mean by that is that you can still preach what you want to preach. You can still preach what you want to preach. I'm going to preach what I'm going to preach. But when it comes to our people, let's put our heads together and see how we can better our people. Whether it's financial education courses, whether it's stock market courses, whether it's pooling money to send kids to college, something. But they're not doing a damn thing.
And you surprised why?
I'm not surprised. I'm beyond surprised at this point at what's going on in Little Rock. I'm trying to offer solutions. I'm trying to offer suggestions that may help our people. Okay?
Yeah,
because think about it. I think the number was from 1984, they said there's been close to over $400 billion that have went through the collection plates of black churches. You get that, right?
Okay.
Where is that money?
Oh, yeah, that is significant, bro.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's significant.
You know, at what point are you going to build a black bank in your community? At what point did you set up a nonprofit credit union?
You think part of the problem is maybe black churches and black pastors, because of where they sit, they don't understand the issues of the black community?
I think part of the problem is what you brought up earlier.
What's that?
Is that many black ministers in this city has sold out, and not just this city, but across this country, has sold out to the Southern Baptists, which is a white organization. And I know that to be a fact because a prominent black preacher has told me that, who will remain nameless, has told me so, because they came to him.
They said, we want to buy you too.
Well, basically, yeah.
What's your number?
Okay, so basically what they're doing is this. They're offering to pay the salary of some of these preachers for X amount of years so that preacher will not get salary from the church.
Get it from the convention.
It gets them come from the Southern Baptist Convention. And that those preachers are mandated to buy into their doctrine. Remember 2 summers ago, the big row that took place at the Southern Baptist Convention in Texas, where the black preachers wanted the Southern Baptist Convention to simply issue a resolution condoning white supremacy.
Right.
And those preachers ended up walking out. Those black preachers ended up walking out. The reason that they were there in the first place was because the Southern Baptist Convention was paying their salaries.
Yeah. See.
Hello?
Yeah. But Dave, again, I'm going to come back to this because I think it's important to reference it. Do you actually believe that black pastors don't know the issues of the black community because they themselves are not a part of the black community in that respect?
No, I think they know.
How can you say that for sure?
Okay. You look, these pastors.
Do you think
what you're saying is that they're so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good.
They're no earthly good, yeah.
Okay. But here's the argument against that. These pastors today are the most educated pastors that we've ever had collectively. Okay. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay. So for me to believe that they don't know.
But being educated, being book smart, and then understanding the issues of the black community, those are two totally different things.
Okay. But if you're pastoring a black congregation,
okay,
certainly you got little Johnny going to jail. Certainly you got little Damadija pregnant by the neighbor.
Yeah.
You got all of the issues that are going on in the black community happening in your church. You got Crackhead Junior. You got Prostitute Peggy. You got all of that in the black community.
Maybe the black churches turn the blind eye to those things.
Well,
because this is the thing.
That's where
this is the question. This is the question I want to ask you. We assume that black pastors know that these guys, or they know the issues of the black community. They know about the poverty numbers. They know about the graduation rates. They know about the test scores. They know about the unemployment. We make assumptions they know about all these things, right? And maybe they don't. Maybe we're assuming way too much of things.
Well,
maybe they don't.
You make a good point, and let me expound on the point that you just made.
Okay.
So when I started fighting for fathers' rights in Tennessee, the first place I went was the Black Ministers Ecumenical Society. This is where all of the black ministers in Nashville, in Davidson County, would meet once a month, which really boggles my mind why they don't do that here. And if there were issues that were going on in the black community, you went to the ecumenical meeting first to present the argument to them, and then they would take it up as a movement. I was stunned to know that many of those people had no idea how fathers were treated in the courts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but as I educated them, many of them became much more aware and got involved. So the point I'm trying to make is that you've got to be willing to get involved in what's going on with your congregation. And if your congregation is not lucid enough to understand that they must get involved, then therein lies the problem.
Right.
You see, because every church is its member. You see, so someone says, well, most people today want to go to church and get an emotional high and leave. You're exactly right. If I'm going to go to church, I need a working church. I need a church that's going to be first a black church, that's going to be understanding of the black issues, because everybody that you minister to when you're looking out from that pulpit are black. That's the type of church that we need. And that doesn't mean just spiritual health, because guess what? If I help you financially, if I save your financial health, then guess what? The all likelihood is that you're going to be putting more tithes and offering into my offering plate. That's why so many of them got on this credit repair thing, because they figured is that, hey, if I can help my parishioners repair their credit, maybe they'll become more financially solvent, and maybe we'll start getting more offering in the collection plate. I'm just saying, the key here, I mean, what other key? I know there are a lot of people who are cynical. I'm cynical about the black church today. That's part of the reason I don't go. It does nothing for me. Okay? It doesn't, because what moves me is not you up there whooping and hollering. What moves me is what you're doing in the community. Okay? What you're doing to save our people. And I'm not just talking about having feeding programs. I'm not just talking about having a clothes closet. I'm talking about you being activists in your community. When someone is murdered by cops, that you're going to tell your congregation that I need you on 5th and Capitol at 12 o'clock on Saturday to protest the murder of Bradley Blackshire. That's the church I'm looking for. Where are they? They don't exist. Therein lies the problem. Yeah. And until we get back to that church, that's the church. And the reason I'm talking about is because, today, you ain't got this yet. What's today?
The 5th of January.
Father, you know not.
Today's Wednesday.
Today is the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Oh, okay. Maybe Malcolm X birthday. This ain't May.
But I'm simply saying, I did all this, and I'm talking about this, is that if you all say we want to commemorate Dr. King, if you all say that
they only say that because they want to commemorate the stuff they want to commemorate. They just want to talk about all the, that was a great speech, and he was nonviolent. I ain't nonviolent. I'm like America. I am not nonviolent, and that should never be said to anybody. But they want to commemorate that kind of stuff. They want to commemorate, please, turn the other cheek. Continue to be abused. Do not ever fight back. Allow them to do that to you.
You're such a cynic.
No, that's not being cynical. That's truthful. I mean, if you look at America, America respects violence. Name all the people who fought back, and I'll give you a little something they own. Come on, let's go ahead. Go ahead. Name one. Name somebody.
I don't know.
Indians, casinos. Name somebody, Dave.
I don't know.
Really, you just gonna give up like that?
I'm just trying to be like Dr. King.
If you even look at New Mexico fought back, and the Mexicans got New Mexico. Name me one city. That's by black folk. Name me one city that's named after some black folk. I mean, seriously.
Chicago.
Dave, no. Name me a state that starts with black or ends with black.
Well, you know, Chicago was founded by John DuPont de Sable.
Yeah, it was founded by him.
Okay, so that's one. Although y'all.
So when you go to Mexico, do you see a whole bunch of white people? Do you see more white people than you see Mexican? No.
I don't see any white folks in Mexico. In fact, I don't go to Mexico.
Really now? So tell me something, Dave. How is it that black folk who did all we did for this country, we don't even have one place, not one state, not even one state that you say, you know what? I want to go to the black state. I'm tired of being around white people. I want to go to the black state. There's not even one black state you can go to in the United States. There's not one.
Mississippi.
Jesus. Okay. You are hilarious. But no, seriously, think about that. New Mexico fought them. Mexicans fought them. They have New Mexico. Everybody who's fought America has something. The folks who didn't fight America, what they got? Nothing.
Nothing but a headache.
Even Haiti. Look at Haiti. Haiti got their own damn country. Haiti fought them. Haiti fought back. Haiti got their own country. Now, mind you, America don't deal with them because they know Haiti ain't playing them games. No, dog, you ain't come on here telling us it's crazy. We'll fight you. So America don't mess with them. But look at us, Dave. Look at us in America. Look at where we are. We have never, ever said to them, this is something that we'll fight for.
Well,
By the way, we got to start early because I got too close today because they've been so good.
All right. You make an excellent point, and I cannot disagree with you on that.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David Cohen.
But at some point, we're going to have to launch that fight.
I think the fight's already been launched.
Well, it certainly has been launched in my home.
I think it's already been launched. You already got people out there fighting back. But the fight doesn't look the same. It doesn't look the same to most people. So.
All right, so we're going to wrap up early, so go ahead and use your...
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to put you on your knees, player. So, man, because of what we're talking about today, man, it's a couple of things that came to mind, and I wanted to look it up when we were talking about we were talking about the black church, right? So this first one is from and after reading The Invisible Man, this quote came to mind, so I wanted to read it today.
You read?
You're funny. This is Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man, right? I'm an invisible man. I'm a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me.
Excellent quote. Excellent.
My next one. This is my boy James Baldwin. Sonny's Blues. Y'all ready? For while the tale of how we suffer and how we are delighted and how we may be triumphant is never new. It always must be heard. There isn't any other tale to tell. It's only light we've got all in this darkness. It's the only light we got in all this darkness. My boy James Baldwin, that's for Sonny's Blues. That's what's up, y'all. Spend money on your own community if you don't know nobody else well. Peace, player.
I've got a couple of quotes as well today. One of them, two by Dr. King, and then one that I've been using for decades. I don't really know where it came from. I used to have it written on my tablet. But here's the first one. I fear I may have integrated my people into a burning house.
Amen.
The second one, which was posted by Russ Raycop, to ignore evil is to become an accomplice to it. That's Dr. King. And my last one, of course, you've heard it before, I'll say it again. A voteless people is a voiceless people. A voiceless people is a defenseless people. and a defenseless people is a contradiction to democracy. Y'all have a great day.
I got a piece. Hold on. So what you said about the port, not true.
What are they building down there?
This is a quote from Brian. Brian said, "All I can say is that it is our policy not to comment on any prospect until the port board takes action, i.e., selling a piece of property. I can tell you that the port board has not taken any actions with respect to Amazon or any Amazon-related business, nor have I taken anything before them on Amazon or any other Amazon-related business."
So that was word soup.
So they haven't taken anything before, so that means it doesn't exist.
Because I'm going to give you specific information once we get off the air. Because I talked to the owner of the business that they're building that he just bought down there. So something's happening. I don't know what. We'll find out. Inquiring minds want to know. We got to get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open. 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Well, that was the open.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on JournetRadio.com.
All right. So, all right.